Coming up on Global Business, China ramps up financial policy support for the country's agriculture sector. We'll explore how China ensures food security with relatively less arable land. China plans to further develop its pilot free trade zones. We take a closer look at the opportunities in the Hainan Free Trade Port. And inflation in the United States takes its toll on small businesses despite an improved economic outlook. And welcome everyone to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong in Beijing. We begin with China's agriculture sector, where Chinese Premier Li Qiang chaired an executive meeting of the State Council on Tuesday, where several proposals were reviewed and approved to enhance crop production and promote high-quality development. The meeting emphasized the significance of constructing high-standard farmland and improving seed cultivation methods. Furthermore, there was a call to elevate standards to facilitate the advancement of high-quality development. Well, farmers across China are currently busy with spring farming preparations, aiming for a productive harvest. In a bid to further support this year's spring farming efforts, the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs allocated some 830 million yuan, or around 115 million US dollars, on Tuesday. Now, these funds will primarily be utilized for reseeding crops and repairing agricultural facilities. Simultaneously, the agriculture sector in China has observed steady growth in special loans. As of the end of February this year, the balance of loans in key agricultural areas reached some 3.9 trillion yuan, or around 540 billion US dollars, reflecting a 5.7% increase from the beginning of the year. Capital investment is primarily focused on loans for the purchase of agricultural machinery and the construction of farmland. Well, financial institutions here in China are actively introducing favorable measures during the current spring plowing season to support the nation's agricultural sector. And these initiatives include expediting the loan approval process and introducing innovative collateral options. Now, by implementing these preferential policies, financial institutions aim to provide assistance to farmers as they prepare for their upcoming agricultural activities. Take a look.
In a greenhouse in Nanji County, workers are diligently placing cucumber seeds into seedling trays. With plans to expand the area under cultivation to 20 hectares this year, the agricultural enterprise faces some significant financial pressures.
This year, it's the first time for us to upscale our area under cultivation. The primary expense is the steel pipes, which mainly make up the framework. So it costs us nearly 150,000 yuan per hectare to set up the necessary infrastructure.
After conducting on-site assessments, local agricultural bank officials provided the company with doorstep assistance, processing a special 1 million yuan loan.
During the springtime farming season, when we have the need to purchase raw materials or products, they would come to visit us and promptly facilitate the whole loan process.
Financial regulation agencies are currently mobilizing banks and insurance institutions to ramp up specialized agricultural lending throughout the province. The Zhejiang Rural Commercial United Bank, for example, has coordinated a total of 50 billion yuan in special funds, with a primary focus on bolstering the dual strength of technology and machinery in agriculture and addressing the shortfall in the procurement of spring farming supplies. In addition to increasing funding, the local authorities have also tailored financial services for agricultural enterprises and farmers. In Lishui City, a livestock company recently secured the province's first 10 million yuan mortgage loan using livestock barn as collaterals. This way, the company enjoys preferential interest rates, saving at least half of the costs needed for the new investment.
The whole process was extremely convenient. I only had to make one trip, and within less than a month, the first installment of funds was already disbursed.
Currently, the People's Bank of China Zhejiang Provincial Branch and the Department of Agriculture and Rural Affairs of Zhejiang Province have jointly promoted a new policy that explicitly states that livestock, such as pigs, cattle, and sheep, as well as aquaculture products and live aquatic organisms, are allowed to be used as collateral for loans. This initiative aims to tackle the challenge that livestock farmers face in having an inadequate supply of working capital.
All right, for more on China's agriculture sector, I want to bring in Li Yong, Chief Researcher at D&C Think Tank. Mr. Li, great to have you on the program. I want to get your take first in terms of why China's policymakers have such a strong emphasis on China's spring plowing season, spring farming season. In our report just now, we heard more financial assistance now for farmers this year. So many different government departments, many different government ministries involved in the early planting season. Talk to us about the significance of this.
Well, I think, I need to put you into the context of why, the so-called spring plowing is very important. I think, this, spring plowing is the first step of the agricultural production each and every year. And that is an effort to prepare the soil as such that it is mellowed and it is ready to produce the expected output. Because of that, it is very critical we're very critical whether the spring plowing is going to be proceeding well enough. Otherwise, for example, if spring plowing or the land preparation is not done with sufficient funding, that will almost lead to the reduction of output at the end of the year. This is very important. Of course, the preparation of land is not just to ensure the ultimate output, but also an effort to control for example, the risks during the period of crop growth. For example, to prevent plant disease, to prevent the insects and pesticides. So so in the preparation period or the spring farming period, there will be a great need of funding to make sure that we lay a solid foundation for the year, and to ensure that we will get the expected output, and eventually to make sure the farmers are going to get the expected income. And that, I think, relates to the livelihood of the agriculture population and, in general, the people's livelihood of China.
Yeah.
Back to you.
And you need that solid foundation to ensure food security here in this country, because with not that much arable land, you have to feed such a massive population. We're going to perhaps touch upon that in just a second, Mr. Li. I want to get your take on the implications of new quality productive forces on agriculture. So for the first time in this year's government work report, this new development concept was mentioned. It's called new quality productive forces, which basically means boosting productivity through innovation-led development, focusing on technology, efficiency, and overall increase in productivity. So what are the implications of new quality productive forces, and then combine this with China's agriculture sector?
I think that involves the application of new technologies in the following areas. For example, seeds development, agricultural machinery, agriculture production management, agricultural resource utilization, and agriculture, environmental protection. So in all those areas, there will be opportunities of developing high-quality productive forces. For example, the application of gene technology, biotechnology in seed development, that will improve the output level of particular seeds. And in terms of agriculture machinery, the application of new tech, for example, 5G, that will help China develop into, for some areas, to develop them into a kind of a smart farms, that require, a lot of the new technologies and less people, less labor. And in terms of agricultural management, for example, new high-quality productive forces is probably going to be related to big data, cloud computing, and so on and so forth. So all in all, those new technologies will provide a boost in the application of new technologies in agriculture production, and eventually to improve agricultural efficiency and output.
Right, so we're talking about perhaps the next level for China's agriculture sector, more in terms of crop yield, less labor intensive perhaps, and then you have more crops when it comes to less land. Let's talk about the grain output target for 2024. Over 650 million metric tons, that's the target for this year. Last year was a record 695 million metric tons in terms of China's grain output. This is a very important number for China's policymakers, Mr. Li, and I want to get your take on this. Give our audience some context and significance around this number. How significant is this? How big of a number is this? Why is this such an important number for China?
Yeah, let me break it down. I think, first it is related to the concept of food security. According to prevailing international standards, food security is about each person having 400 kilograms of food each year. And China obviously has 1.4 billion people, and the aggregate of that is going to be a huge number. That is about I think 80% or more than 80% of the target, and that is 1.13 trillion jin. I have not been able to calculate it into metric tons.
That's the 650 million metric tons target.
Yes, yes, and that I think it is going to provide the basic food security. Each person have 400 kilos, and then we will have to understand that the food security is not just about feeding people. To have food available. To provide the needed nutrition, for example, that it is not just that. It is also about the stock grain or the feed grain, the grains that are produced to feed livestock. That is related to the supply of meat, for example, chicken, and so on and so forth. So all in all, we need to have, the 650 million tons, at least, to make sure that we have the, the limit, the least amount of food, on the table. Yeah. So that is very important, and right now China import about around 160 million tons of grains, for the purpose of feeding animal livestock. So it is very important to keep that as a kind of a bottom line.
I mean, it's very important because food security is so important to China. Just about 9 to 10% of arable land here in China relative to its entire territory. Yes. So this is always going to be a priority for China's policymakers. And perhaps with the technology that we see in agriculture, some of the experiences in technology can also be shared with other developing and emerging markets around the world. Mr. Li, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Mr. Li Yong, Chief Researcher at DNC Think Tank. Thank you. And a look now at what else is happening across China. March 12th marks the country's 46th tree planting day. Official data released on Tuesday reveals that China has exceeded its afforestation goal by planting nearly 4 million hectares of forest in the past year, surpassing the 3.8 million hectares planted in 2022. China's stock exchanges have recently introduced the first 2 CSI A50 exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, marking the beginning of a series of 10 planned ETFs. These A50 ETFs are expected to raise over $2 billion in total. The ETFs help investors to better track the best performing stocks across various sectors. And China's car exports have continued their upward trend from the previous year. In the first 2 months of this year, car exports jumped by nearly 31% compared to the same period last year. Well, here on CGTN, we are launching a new series called The Forefront, where we explore stories of China's governance with ministers and governors. In today's edition, we sit down with Feng Fei, Secretary of the CPC Hainan Provincial Committee, for more on the development strategy of China's tropical island province. Take a listen.
海南建省其重要的一个目的就是全省办经济特区。
Hainan was founded for the important purpose of establishing a province-wide special economic zone. We are currently accelerating the construction of a free trade port of Chinese characteristics with world influence. In recent years, to promote high-quality development of the economy, we are breaking away from the dependence on real estate. Instead, Hainan is accelerating the construction of a modern industrial system characterized by the 4 pillars, 3 strengths, and 3 premium service sectors. The goal is to increase the quality, resilience, and competitiveness of Hainan's economic growth. The 4 pillars refers to the 4 leading industries including tourism, modern service industry, high-tech industry, and tropical agriculture. They account for 62.4% of GDP, an increase of 11 percentage points from 2018. The 3 strengths refers to leveraging the advantages of Hainan's climate temperature, ocean depth, and geographic latitude to develop seed breeding, deep sea, and aerospace industries. And the 3 premium service sectors are high-end shopping, medical service, and education, where we hope to lure back outbound consumptions.
是指做好高端购物、医疗和教育3篇境外消费回流的文章。
Now, from one of China's earliest special economic zones to the nation's sole free trade port, the southernmost island province of Hainan has long been at the forefront of reform and opening up. Today, it's become a magnet for people from around the world to live and work. So let's take a closer look at what life is like for expats living in Hainan.
Well, I've been in Hainan now for 17 years and I'm a permanent resident here. You could say that my life has developed alongside Hainan's. I've seen a lot of changes, some monumental changes since I've been here. Now, not just basic infrastructure, but all kinds of infrastructure is comprehensive to say the least. Public transportation is second to none. Medical infrastructure has been much enhanced. There have been great strides in education. And even little details such as a new app that came out the other day called Hainan Trust Pay has been invented, if you like, which focuses on difficulties that foreign visitors face when they come to Hainan when regards payment. So there are, across the board, there are some massive changes going on. And the fact that the policies are often changed, updated, tweaked and amended according to specific requirements and conditions gives me a lot of hope and confidence that Hainan will achieve its free trade port status according to plan. Well, as Hainan opens up new economic sectors, such as agricultural ones like seed breeding, also aerospace technology and deep-sea marine technology, I'm sure that in future more and more people from outside the island, both from the mainland but also foreigners, will choose to come to Hainan to settle, to work. And I, for one, shall redouble my efforts in promoting Hainan to the rest of the world.
Even over the last 5 to 6 years since I've been here, the changes have been phenomenal. It's been very huge. The free trade port and the free movement of people and funds and information, and also the tourist visa-free policy, 59 different countries. So the development has been quite rapid and quite fast, and it's really amazing to see it happen. I was able to open a company here quite easily. It's a great environment for my children and very welcoming for foreigners. Actually, I recommend foreigners to come to Hainan and live here and work here all the time. In fact, as part of one of the things my company does is we help foreigners come here to Hainan. So Hainan is a wonderful place to work and live, and I've even seen some foreigners come from other countries or different places in China to come here to enjoy the wonderful environment along with the open business environment.
Hainan province also has one of the fastest growth rates here in the country, and along with those beautiful sandy beaches in Sanya. All right, still to come here on Global Business. Inflation in the United States takes its toll on small businesses despite an improved economic outlook.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global Business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business, only on CGTN.
To the United States, where latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics reveals that consumer inflation in the U.S. experienced an upward trend in February. The closely monitored Consumer Price Index indicated a 3.2% increase in prices for the 12 months ending in February. That's slightly surpassing market expectations. On a monthly basis, consumer prices rose by 0.4%, marking the largest increase seen in the past 5 months. However, the core inflation number that excludes gas and food prices, that eased slightly to an annual rate of 3.8%. Well, many small businesses in the United States are tirelessly working to maintain profitability, even as inflation and higher interest rates take a toll on their bottom lines. CGTN's Nathan King has more from Virginia.
Nikki Grant is rightly proud of her business at the Woodstock Cafe, a bustling joint she co-owns with chef and husband Jose. She's a ball of positive energy, a customer favourite. But the last few years have been a roller coaster. Having to lay off staff was the worst thing, but things are getting better.
Before COVID, it was about 30. We did have to lay off about half of those staff. So we were running with about 15 people during COVID. We're back up to 25 now.
But like everywhere else, inflation has hit hard. Everything Woodstock Cafe sells is up in price.
I think it was right after COVID. We did like a small price increase, which was the first time this place had seen that in like 12 years. Most people were super okay with it. The most complaints I got was about the wine going up.
Despite the obstacles, Grant tries to stay positive about the future, unlike the prevailing mood in the US right now. And she does so partly by keeping politics out of the cafe.
I definitely hear it. It definitely comes to me. But we also, we don't allow you to politic in here. So we just don't want to be associated with anything other than coming here to relax, have a good time, feel like you're part of our family, and eat good food, drink good coffee, buy good wine.
So from Woodstock Cafe on the high street to the housing market, that too has shown signs of growth in recent months. But as with all the economic indicators in the US, it points one way and then another. Across the beautiful Shenandoah Valley, realtor Gordon Cowan shows us a house for sale in the town of Luray. Gordon admits higher interest rates and tighter credit markets have hurt business.
Right around June, probably July 1st-ish, 2022, right around when they first did the first rate hike, the buyers just started disappearing. You know, I went from buyers calling me all day long to hoping that a buyer would call me, every day.
But he says the market has come back. It's slower though. A lack of housing has meant buyers have had to get used to paying more for credit, while house prices have remained high.
We're still seeing the same kind of thing that we were in 2021, 2022, not to the same extent, but if something is priced correctly, it's going to sell. If it's overpriced, it's going to sit, and honestly, sometimes even if it's priced right where you think it should be, it's going to sit.
For Gordon and Nikki, they are mainly bullish on a growing economy, but it's a new normal, post-COVID, higher costs, but with a resilient consumer. As for the future, Nikki would like just one thing from whoever is elected in November.
Healthcare. Healthcare. I'd love for my staff to have free healthcare.
Housing, healthcare, jobs. The US economy may be changing, but the hopes of the American voters largely remain the same. Nathan King, CGTN, Shenandoah, Virginia.
And in other headlines, we're tracking at this hour. The unemployment rate in the United Kingdom has increased to 3.9% in the first quarter of this year. That is up from 3.8% in the previous quarter. The rise in unemployment, coupled with the continued slowdown in wage growth during the same period, is increasing the likelihood of a rate cut by the Bank of England in June. Vietnam's economy is projected to grow by 5.5% in the first quarter of 2024. That's according to a Singaporean bank. However, the bank also predicts that inflation in Vietnam will remain elevated at 3.8% throughout the year. And Bitcoin has reached an all-time high, trading at $72,750 US. Furthermore, regulatory bodies outside of the U.S. securities regulator are increasingly acknowledging that crypto is here to stay. Well, music phenomenon Taylor Swift has wrapped up her 6th sold-out show over in Singapore this weekend. Her Eras World Tour began back in March of 2023 and includes several international destinations, including Paris, Tokyo, and London. However, Singapore will be her only stop in Southeast Asia due to a controversial exclusivity deal with Singapore, which has left many fans in neighboring countries out in the cold. Our Junwei Sim has more.
14-time Grammy winner Taylor Swift has a massive following in Asia. Millions of her fans across the region, from China to the Philippines to Indonesia, scrambled to get hold of at least one of 300,000 concert tickets for her 6 nights in Singapore in early March. It was her only stop in Southeast Asia for her Eras tour, which became something of a sore point for Singapore's neighbours. Thailand's Prime Minister was the first to call attention to a deal made by the Singapore government to subsidise Swift's concerts if she didn't perform anywhere else in Southeast Asia. He said he heard from the show's promoter that Swift was being paid up to $3 million a concert, a number which Singapore downplayed. A Filipino lawmaker also weighed in, saying that it isn't what good neighbours do, prompting a response from Singapore's leader.
There was a certain incentives provided to her from our Tourism Development Fund. It really is a post-COVID fund to revive tourism after COVID. And a deal was reached. And so it has turned out to be a very successful arrangement. I don't see that as being unfriendly. And successful it was. Swift's tour dates in Singapore brought in tens of thousands of fans from across the region, all staying in hotels, eating in restaurants, and spending on much more than a concert ticket.
Aside from it's my first time here in Singapore, I just really very excited for everything. It took a lot of my money, about 30,000 yuan, and the ticket take me 2,000 yuan. Yeah, but I'm willing to do it. Singapore's Changi Airport reports that arrivals between March the 1st and 7th jumped by more than 20% compared to the same period last year. Economists say it could add as much as $370 million extra to the island's economy. By the way, Bangkok later clarified that it never meant to criticize Singapore, but instead to, quote, admire and compliment the city-state. Junwei Sum, CGTN.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong here in Beijing. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.